Hello, Mario.
Ian, how are you?
How are you? How's it going?
Good. Grant.
You well?
Yeah. No worries. What was I going to say? Any plans for the weekend?
Any plan? Well, the 5 o'clock thing in our house, like it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so we'll have the old cocktails out. I think we're going to go for the Kaiparoshkas today. That's the big one today. So that's the limes and the ice and the kind of sugar syrup. Smash it all up together and bit of vodka. And, it's grand. It's very good. Good starter. Kicker off or kickstarter,
Yeah. Well, speaking of starter over, I was going to say something to you there.
What?
I didn't want you to. No, it's grand. I didn't want you to find out any other way, but right. I'm actually starting a podcast.
A podcast?
Yeah,
you?
Myself and Patrick. Yeah, I've been working on it for a few
months. What are you doing? Everybody's doing a bloody podcast. What are you doing a podcast for? What are you now? Hillary Clinton? Michelle Obama? I mean, what's going on? There's millions of them out there at the moment. Yeah, you're onto a good thing now. What are you doing podcasts for? God's sake.
Well, hang on. No. Hold on. I've been working on it for a few months, like.
Have you? Really? And like, who are you going to have on it? Like, I mean, have you got? Is it guests? Mario talking to somebody, going deep dive, all this kind of stuff? Is it?
What?
What is it? What? Like, who are you going to have on? Tell me.
Well, actually, I was hoping that you might be my first guest.
Me? Oh, me? Is it like one-on-one? That you'd ask me questions.
Well, if you don't want to.
Yeah.
Like,
No. Podcast. I think it's the future. Actually, podcasting. It's amazing. I think I'm actually quite. I'd love to do that. That'll be amazing.
Are you up for it?
Thanks a million. You thought
so actually,
of me.
You're okay about me having a podcast?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's a great idea. I think podcasting is the future. To be honest with you, I mean, who's listening to anything else now except podcasts? Podcasts are brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks a million, Ian. Listen, we'll try and arrange it on Monday. Enjoy the Kaiparoshkas.
Thanks.
Well, that little sketch takes me right back. Ian Dempsey was my first guest ever on the Mario Rosenstock podcast, and what a brilliant interview he was too. I guess it's that time of the year for a bit of reflection, and I've been thinking a lot on how far we've come with this podcast since we started almost 4 years ago. Millions of listens, some big awards and nominations too, and a lot of friends made along the way. And it's all thanks to you for being a loyal listener and supporting us along the way, and of course telling one other person about it. And thank you for doing that. So I thought it would be fitting for this week's episode to go right back to the very beginning and revisit episode 1. And it was a cracker.
Well, once the red light goes on, there's a sort of an edit button that goes on in the back of your head subconsciously. So obviously you don't say, well, how the fuck are you today? You can't say that on the radio. I did take a lot of them, and I know Eamon Dunphy took a lot of them as well at the time, and he came in and he said, you want to get off those things? And I remember there was 50 pence sitting on the bench. That was left there as a temptation, I think, for every single child. And I'd say, if I had taken that, I could have been in serious trouble and had a worse story to tell.
Okay, Matt Cooper has a problem in a battery shop.
Hello? You wouldn't have any AAA batteries by any chance, would you?
So much has happened since that chat, including Ian Dempsey having started a podcast of his own. And I was one of the first guests. Was I the first? I think I was the second guest. And it must be catching, really, mustn't it? But before we make that very first step down memory lane, I'd like to say a big thanks to our sponsor. And that is On Ice, Ireland's premium ice skating experience. It's returned and it's bringing back the magic of ice skating nationwide. This Christmas, this festive season, after Christmas, before Christmas, and ongoing. With locations in Dublin, in Dundrum and Swords, Marion Market in Cork, as well as locations in Waterford, Limerick and Galway. That's On Ice. So enjoy it. Ireland's #1 festive and family entertainment this Christmas. And I know myself, it's total family entertainment. It's fresh, it's exhilarating, it's a buzz, you'll get fit, you'll learn how to do an extra skill. Everybody can be involved. So grab your tickets now at onice.ie. Onice.ie. And thank you to On Ice for getting involved in not only podcasts, but the Mario Rosenstock podcast. So, are you ready? It's time to go back to the 17th of March, 2021, the very first episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast. A great chat with my work wife of over 25 years, the master himself, Ian Dempsey. Ian, I'm podcasting.
Congratulations. And I'm delighted to be here. How you...
After all the crap we've talked about this for years, I'll say.
Well, that's the whole thing. See, I mean, I think that you dream a lot, but you actually do something about it. I dream a lot and I go sleep. I have a nap. So fair play to you, and I'm delighted. I'm looking forward to listening to this now. I will subscribe to your podcast. Okay. Definitely.
Yeah, I thought that it was just to answer that question about the first guest. We actually about 2 weeks ago we decided that we'd ask you as to be the first guest, and we have obviously any other amount of things lined up. But we just thought that from the whole relationship that you and I have had, the amount of time we've known each other, the amount of communal sort of experiences that we've been through together, that it was a kind of a fitting kind of gateway or a bridge to cross over from one medium into another and do it.
So basically, what you're saying is I'm the pacemaker for the entire series. I understand that.
You're the test bunny. You're the test rodent.
Yeah, exactly.
You are the white mouse that has been injected into the cave, and we have given cocaine. Okay. We've placed cocaine and see which mouse snorts the cocaine. So what we're going to do, Ian, is first of all, what occurred to me was, first of all, thanks a million for doing this. And the second thing that occurred to me was I didn't realize before today that the day we were recording this, because we might as well start here, unbelievable that it's Tony Fenton's anniversary. God love him.
6th anniversary. My God. Yeah, I know. I was saying on the radio this morning, though, I refuse to think about him sadly. I have to think about him happily, because he gave us the greatest of times. And I mean, he was always in good form. He was an amazing guy, great broadcaster, great socializer, and I don't know how he'd be dealing with the old COVID-19, to be honest with you. I don't know whether he could handle the full year of it, you know what I mean?
Well, listen, tell that story you were telling on the radio this morning about the thing we came up with.
Yeah.
So we imagined what it would be like Tony Fenton living in COVID-19 land.
Exactly. Well, I mean, he came up with, he had Tony's rhyming slang all the time, like Cockney rhyming slang, except he would always go one step further with it, and you'd have to kind of work it out like... in other words, if you're playing golf with him, he might say to you, hey, your ball is behind the cate. But the cate? Oh, what's the cate? The bush. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So, so in this, we were trying to work out, and obviously Tony's not here, so we don't have him to tell us, but we worked out what he would have called COVID-19, and we worked out that it would be called the Knack. Because there was a song called My Sharona by the Knack back in, I don't know when, the late 70s or early 80s or whatever. And he would have kind of said, Sharona, Corona, the Knack. So he'd say, Knack. I've got a touch of the Knack. I think I'll stay in bed. I got the
Exactly.
Knack. And it would be so Tony, wouldn't it? You know?
Oh, totally. It's a good jumping off point. Tony is a good jumping off point, because if you look at, like, you've been in obviously broadcasting for about 40 years now, and if you look back at where it started, it probably started in cahoots with Tony. Isn't that right?
More or less, yeah. I mean, I started on a station called Capital Radio, which wasn't the one that became Capital Radio later on, and then became 104 and Rock 104 and everything. But it was on Bachelor's Walk, and he wasn't there then. But I did know him before that, because I knew him because he was a neighbour of mine. So I used to hang around. I mean, he used to live right beside my aunt and uncle. So I used to be going up to visit my aunt and uncle, and I used to meet Tony every now and again. He was big into the football, as he was all his life. So I didn't really know much about the radio thing. And then I met Barry Lang when I was in RTE for the first time in 1980. And Barry was also a friend of his. And they used to have a disco together, Tony and Barry, called Tow Bar Disco. Tow Bar. And they invited me to go along. And so anytime they'd kind of get off with any women or whatever, I'd be left up playing the songs up at the top. So I was the apprentice DJ, so to speak, with Tony and Barry. And we used to go all over the place. We used to bring, like in those days, you had to bring all the records with you. So you'd have bags and bags of records, all your equipment and all that. And we did actually do that once on a bus. We actually got a bus from up in sort of Glasnevin North, and we got a bus all the way out to Malahide with all the equipment, speakers, the lot, everything. We were dedicated, absolutely dedicated to the cause.
We've worked together for 22 years. And every so often, maybe, well, it's only probably, once a year now. But it used to be more often. Every so often, I'd you wouldn't know this, but I'd be outside a studio and I'd just watch you on the mic. And I just watch what you're doing. And I watch what's happening. I'm watching what feeling and relationship you have. What is happening? You're basically sitting very close to a mic. You just seem to be extremely comfortable. And I'm kind of wondering, you go into this kind of world where everything seems to flow from you. It's as if you relax suddenly when the mic is on. And I'm kind of wondering, who are you talking to in your mind's eye when that happens?
Well, I was always fascinated by the whole the radio doctors who used to say that you try and imagine one person, and that's what I've always done. I've believed in that, and I mean the BBC guys used to talk about that as well. That you imagine there's one person and you try and talk to that person. But if you're playing a request for somebody, I always try and focus in on that person, and I talk directly to that person. Other people can listen in if they want to. That's fine, but that's what I do. And I mean, it's like, I mean, you're saying that you sometimes would watch me, which is kind of spooky. I didn't realize that. I must watch out for it in the future. But I used to do the same with Larry Gogan, actually, and it was a great hero of mine. And I remember watching him and the joy when he turned on the microphone. Like, he could be chatting away to you, the record could end, turns the mic on, and immediately switches on. And there'd be similarities in maybe I learned from him how to do that. And I mean, he was loving the music. His foot was thumping as he went along with the songs. He was just enjoying the moment. And I mean, there's the famous thing about Larry with his heart monitor, where the doctor, when he went back with the heart monitor, says, "What were you doing between 12 and 2? Because your heart rate was absolutely perfect." And he says, "I was on the radio." So, I mean, he was born to do it, and hopefully maybe I was too.
I find it fascinating, right? Your parents, sent you to Belvedere.
Yeah.
Now, Belvedere was Terry Wogan. Oh, let me see. Tony O'Reilly.
Yeah. Archbishop Dermot Ryan. Kevin Barry went there.
And Ian Dempsey. But you walked out of your Leaving Cert exam to go and do a shift on the radio.
Yeah. I wasn't doing very well. I wasn't doing very well in the exam,
But here's the point, right? But here's the point I'm trying to make. Maybe I'm not making a point. Maybe you don't see what I'm trying to get at. I guess my point is that your parents probably went, well, we're going to send him to Belvedere. It's a very good school. Yeah. And we want him to bloody well show his respect for us by going to Belvedere and getting a bloody good Leaving Cert for himself. And the little bollocks has fecked off to some radio station. Well, thanks a million, son, for my investment in your feckin' education. Was there any sense of that at all?
Well, there was. There was and there wasn't. I mean, like, to be fair, my dad was a civil servant. He retired now, and obviously because he's 92. But he scrimped for both myself and my brother to go to that school. We had to put off family holidays, and in fact, the first time I went away on a foreign holiday outside of the country was after I met Ger, so, it's like, so we weren't doing all that. So he saved up a lot of money, and I'm sure he did say, what the hell is this kid up to? Because I became a little bit of a kind of a, not so much, I was into the fashion of the day. I was into David Bowie. I was into having a plastic bag instead of a school bag. I was kind of a little bit rebellious like that, and I didn't really care, and I was a bit scruffy. And then I got into the radio, and the radio, it was a pirate radio station as well.
What would they like about that, though, Ian? What would they like about that? Well,
see, they're very understanding, and they believed in the whole idea of developing the person rather than, and if the person is leaning towards radio, like, I mean, I had always been into that from a very young age, so they knew that was what I loved. So
a situation that could have been happening at home was Des might have said, he's fucking gone into that radio station again. And Gay might have gone, oh, leave him at it. You know how much he's always loved radio. Yeah. Is that a kind of a situation?
I don't know. I think the pair of them were quite understanding, to be honest with you. And they just wanted to see, as I have been, to be honest with you, with my own children since. Like, I mean, there's no pressure here to, become Dr. Dempsey or anything like that. Yes. It's do your own thing and develop in your own way. And actually, Belvedere, to be fair to it, is a very good school at that. They develop the person, not necessarily academically, but the person as a full person, and it's a great school. Getting a bit of bad press lately, but a great school. Yeah.
Jesus, it is getting a bit of bad press. It was a Marmion, was it? Joe, I heard them. They were on about it with Joe Duffy.
That's right. Yeah, Joseph Marmion. Yeah.
Father Joseph Marmion.
Father Joseph Marmion, dead now.
And dead now, yes. And was he around in your time?
He was indeed, yeah. But I am refusing to be defined by him. I think that there's been a lot of articles written and a lot of live line shows about him and all that kind of stuff. And all of it is true. Everybody knew about it. But then again, there's always a bad egg or a bad prawn in every kind of walk of life. But I was part of that whole thing, and I was in the opera, and I had to get costume fitted, so to speak, and I came across the guy as well. But he was just like, even the teachers in that school were afraid of Father Marmion. I don't know what it was about him. He just had this air about him, and he was not a very nice person. But it is weird.
Really? So in other words, a lot of people like that are often, they come across as very nice people. In other words, they're kind of, they can be charming and kind of powerful and charismatic.
This guy was a ruffian, and I mean, he'd walk into a class that another teacher was given, and that teacher would almost cower as if to say, "Oh my God, I'm in trouble," you know. And like, he wasn't even a principal or an assistant principal. He wasn't. He was just an ordinary teacher.
It's just,
I was one of those kids, and you know. That was a situation.
There were costume fittings,
there were costume fittings, yeah. I always remember there was one thing that I only found out recently reading Tom Durley's piece, because Tom Durley went to that school, and I knew him when I was in school. And Tom wrote a great piece in the Daily Mail about it. And I only realised that he was actually, I'm obviously so naive. He was getting so turned on by what he was doing that he was actually going off behind the thing and having
going to town on himself.
I didn't even realise that. So now I kind of feel bad about it. But anyway, I do remember there was one thing about it. I remember when he did go off, there was, because he did, and I remember he did go off because, and so that's obviously what he was doing. He went off, but I'm only realising that in the last couple of weeks since reading this.
I thought you were going to say in the last couple of minutes.
No. Go
on.
But anyway, I remembered I was sitting on a bench, and I remember there was 50 pence, which was old money, obviously. 50 pence sitting on the bench, and it's only. I was thinking afterwards, if I had taken that was left there as a temptation, I think, for every single child, and I'd say if I had taken that I could have been in serious trouble and probably. Had a worse story to tell, but anyway, it didn't affect my life at all.
Not at all. But I sorry, just to clear that one up. Are you the situation you might have been outlining is that if you took the 50 pence, he'd say, "Oh, you took the 50 pence, you stole it. You will now have to." There was 50 pence there. Now you will have to report back to me, and you will be admonished, and there will be problems.
Yeah,
and then this could lead to other stuff. Jesus,
exactly.
Christ.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
right. Listen. Anyway, Ian, it's great talking to you. Listen, thanks a million. Good luck.
And actually, just while we move off the Belvedere thing, I still believe Belvedere is an exceptional school. Really good. People I met there, still fantastic friends. One of my best friends, Ken, who you've met, Ken Wigstone. Yes. We met when we were like 7 or 8, and we're still the closest of friends, and I meet up with guys all the time, and I think it was a good education, and everybody that was in there except for that one person was exceptional.
Yes,
you know. So.
Yes. But as you say, it's never even something that's come up between us before, actually.
No.
And I couldn't think of anybody that it doesn't define more than you. So that's great. And 40 years later, like, still doing this, and the more I go through life, and the more you see more of life, the more you see more of just people who jobs are tough, life is tough, and in a way, you can't say this about yourself now, but in a way, you've sailed through your whole life happy as Larry, and Larry almost being the operative word, like happy as Larry, just totally happy doing what you're doing. I was listening to you this morning on the radio because I was at home, and you were, I don't know, is something happening that's good in your life at the moment? You were absolutely quite chipper this morning. You were feeling very upbeat and making gags about everything, and so you were just on top form.
Well, you know, it's Friday.
It
You
is,
know it's
but you were.
Friday.
I've heard you on
Friday.
a million Fridays.
No,
It's Friday. It's Kaparoshka time.
Yeah, but this is Friday. Exactly. I mean, I swear it means much more. I remember you telling me a story about Vincent Brown, and you wanted to meet him about something, and he said,
That's
"When
right.
can I meet?" And you said Friday. He says, "No, I drink on Fridays."
Yeah, he said
And
to
I'm
me,
a
that was
bit like
very
that
funny.
now, to be honest with you.
That was very funny. He said, I'd love to interview you. And he said, I'd love. He said, when are you free? And I said, are you free on Friday? And he went, no. I drink alcohol on Friday. Yeah, but what do you mean by that? And he went, no. When I mean I drink alcohol, I really drink alcohol on Friday. And I asked him, I pushed him further on it, and he said, I like to clear out the files in my head and make sure they're all gone by Monday. So basically, he performs a kind of a vicious, unsupported browser reboot on his brain, and basically catastrophizes his brain and with alcohol, and then on Monday he's fine again. I can make a categorical statement for anybody who's listening to this podcast, and that Ian Dempsey has never taken drugs. I can pretty much guarantee that to everybody. And I know I won't even allow you to say it yourself, because I know you're sick to the teeth of saying you've never taken drugs. And it's hilarious. And some people are always gobsmacked. People are always interviewing you and going, Ian, come on. I know you've never taken drugs, but you had a little bit, didn't you? And you're there. No, I swear I never had any. And of course, that's perfectly. That's Noel from MCT.
No, but I'll tell you, that's one of the interesting things that I'm delighted and privileged that you've asked me to come onto your podcast, right? Because very few people ask me to come onto anything, because I don't have a story. I don't really have I'm a guy who does a radio show, and I have a job, and I do it relatively well, and I've been successful doing it, but I don't have the closest thing I had was I used to take a lot of Solpadines, which I suppose that was.
Well, this is what I wanted to ask you about, because this was a hilarious incident happened a few years ago. You used to take Solpadine, and suddenly before you knew it, you were on the Saturday Night Show with Brendan O'Connor, and he was like, Ian, tell us about your drugs, hell. And you're there sweating, going, what drugs, hell? Ian, apparently you're addicted to codeine. So, you have a problem with the codeine and you're addicted to the old codeine. So, this was hilarious listening to this.
They must have been really stuck that week, you know?
Yeah. Remember the Daily Mail, My Drugs Hell, by Ian Dempsey, and you were just going, what the hell is this all about? Yeah.
I know.
But,
and to be honest with you, I did probably take two. I did take a lot of them, and I know Eamon Dunphy took a lot of them as well at the time. And he came in and he said, "You want to get off those things?" I think one day he took about 14 in about 3 hours, and that's kind of a bit excessive. He had a bad back or something like that. But I did take them, but then once they kind of made them illegal almost, like if you went in to buy a packet of them, they'd say, "Oh, what do you want these for?" "Oh, no." I just said, forget it. I don't need them, you know. So I didn't take them anymore.
That's our promo for the podcast, Ian, because all we got there for the promo was you didn't mention the word Solpadine at all. All you said was, no, I was taking them for ages. Eamon Dunphy was on loads of them, and of course they were illegal at the time, so me and Eamon were the only ones doing them. So that's a perfect promo. So you say you don't have a story, but everybody has a story in a different way. I mean, not everybody has a story that's akin to a guest that used to appear on the Pat Kenny version of the Late Late Show, where he'd go, so after that, your head fell off and you went to Ecuador. It's not every story is, not every person has the similar story to that, but everybody has a story within their personality as well. So here's two questions that everybody asks me when I'm out and about. Now, before we kick off this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast, I wanted to bring you this short advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. As you'll know from listening to this series of podcasts, I've always been interested in the whole subject of therapy, and I think that it's something that so many of us, if not all of us, could really benefit from. It's no exaggeration to say that life can get crazy at times, and it can be hard to cope. We're all just trying to do our best. And sometimes we can use a little bit of help with that. Therapy isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma in their lives. It's for anyone who would like to learn things about positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, tackling negative self-talk, and that kind of stuff. With over 5,000 therapists in Ireland and the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Mario. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mario. Now, before we kick off this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast, I wanted to bring you this short advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. As you'll know from listening to this series, I've always been interested in the whole subject of therapy, and I think that it's something that so many of us, if not all of us, could really benefit from. It's no exaggeration to say that life can get crazy at times, and it can be hard to cope. We're all just trying to do our best, and sometimes we can use a little help with that. Therapy isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma in their lives. It's for anyone who would like to learn things like positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, tackling negative self-talk, that kind of stuff. With over 5,000 therapists in Ireland and the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Mario. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mario. Thanks. Now, before we kick off this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast, I wanted to bring you this short advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. As you'll know from listening to this series, I've always been interested in the whole subject of therapy, and I think that it's something that so many of us, if not all of us, could really benefit from. It's no exaggeration to say that life can get a bit crazy at times, and it can be hard to cope. We're all just trying to do our best, and sometimes we can use a little bit of help with that. Therapy isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma in their lives. No, it's for anyone who would like to learn things like positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, tackling negative self-talk, and that kind of stuff. With over 5,000 therapists in Ireland and the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. So, let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Mario. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mario. What was it like meeting Roy Keane? Or what was it like meeting Jose Mourinho? And then the other question that they'll ask me is, here, tell us, is Ian Dempsey that sound, is he? And then there's another question, but it's not a question. It's a rhetorical question. A fellow will come over to me with a worried look on his face and he go, Ian Dempsey's sound, isn't he? And that's basically the same tone he's using the same tone as, tell me the Easter Bunny exists, right? And right. I go, no, he is exactly the way he is on the radio. Yeah. But my question to you is, and you try to be as honest with me here, because for everybody out there who might wonder, yeah, he's consistently, reliably sound, decent, extremely gentlemanly. That's one of the things that I think I was really bad at when I met you, and I learned a little bit from you about being a gentleman. I still have lots to learn, by the way, but you have a great gentlemanliness about you, a gentleness with people. You really try to listen to what they're saying. You're very respectful of people and you give them their due. But I wanted to just try and see, are you, in your own opinion, are you really that nice? Like, if I'll try and push you even further. I'll try and push you further even. Push you further. Like, if you had to basically be even cruel on yourself and criticize yourself, how would you give me a negative about Ian Dempsey, even in your own personal estimation?
That's an interesting question, and I suppose I think that I'm a meanderer, and I'm a, what do you call those guys who put things off until the next? I keep putting things off all the time. I
procrastinator.
Yeah, exactly, procrastinator. I don't have. I have lots of ideas. I've got buckets in my phone. I've got buckets and buckets of ideas, but I've done nothing with them. I've always wanted to do that, So I don't have enough ambition, I suppose. But I am what people hear on the radio, and I am. That's the way, and I am.
It's a trick. It's a trick, isn't it, Ian? Because we've often discussed this as well. It's not that maybe you correct me on this. It's not that it's exactly you on the radio. It's a version of you which is very close to you, and it's because it couldn't be exactly you. Because in exactly you would be much more. I suppose you'd be much more confessional, and you'd say almost like Asperger's syndrome. You'd say exactly what's on your mind, almost.
Yeah.
But it's a very close version to you, but it's as close as you can get, I suppose.
But once the red light goes on, there is a sort of an edit button that goes on in the back of your head subconsciously. So obviously you don't say, well, how the fuck are you today? You can't say that on the radio. Although I've always had a dream that it would be great if once a year you were allowed to say the F word on the radio. It would be, there was a license that every broadcaster could do it, so that you go to see Bowie at the Point for the 17th time and you come back and you say, that was the best fucking gig I have ever been at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that doesn't work yet. But maybe it will soon.
Yeah.
You never know the way things are going. But the thing you say about listening, I remember my dad saying to me that he heard an interview with some guy who was on. He was talking to John F. Kennedy's missus, just after he had been shot, and he was interviewing her, and he had his questions set out, and he had said, "So tell us, Mrs. Kennedy, this, tell us that," and she said something that was just really kind of heart-wrenching and very personal, but he just asked her the next question. Do you know what I mean? And my dad said to me, always listen to what the other person is saying. That it's so important that you pick up on what they're saying. And I mean, that stuck with me. So, I mean, he's been a great influence on my life, as my mother has. And as you have, Mario.
Well, thank you very much. But
no, you have.
I suppose that's the same thing as some actors say as well. I remember a lot of good actors will tell you that they go, "How are you such a good actor?" And they go, "I don't act, I just react. Somebody says something and I react to what the person is saying, and that is where the spark or the magic comes from." And if you're very reactive as well, because you just listen to what's been given to you and you react in your natural, authentic personality to that. Having said that, though, now that when this is something you and I talk about off air a lot as well. Oh boy, do we talk about this. I suppose I'll frame it in do you ever worry now about saying something that just do you ever?
Yeah,
but
I do,
you?
Absolutely. Yeah, because it's a very thin line now, isn't it, between what you say and what you used to be able to say, what you can't say now, what you say, and because of social media, which isn't going away anywhere, it's always going to be there. So you can't sort of say, well, let's outlaw this thing, because everybody has an opinion. Everybody's an expert, as your friend Mick McCarthy used to say. Do you know what I mean? It's it's one of those situations whereby everybody is able to give their opinion and press send on a message, and that can then be passed on to somebody else and on to somebody else. I mean, there's all kinds of things out there that you just cannot say anymore. Like, for example, if you take the whole thing about Meghan Markle saying that somebody was wondering what colour the child was going to be, right? Now, I can honestly say that if my daughter was married to somebody who was, say, a black guy, right?
Yeah.
And I would probably say, oh, it'll be interesting to see what the child looks like. That's not 100%. Necessarily racist, is it?
100%.
Yeah.
See, 100%. This is what myself and Blonde were talking about this the other night. So we said, everybody has gone on a screaming fest about this Meghan Markle and Harry thing, right? Nobody, not one person that I've seen has said, in what context was the person who said this speaking in? So, for example, did Prince Charles bound into the room and went, "Meghan, Harry, my God, I just thought about it now. You're of mixed race, and Harry is a ginger bollocks, which means perhaps, hopefully, maybe there could be a very interesting colour to the child." And he could have said it in a completely positive way, rather than the negative connotation which it's being ascribed to. And I'm not saying it's not that, but everybody's just jumping, presuming that it is. You know what I mean? So, And I mean, I thought William was quite forceful. He was quite forceful on the news, William, when he said, "We are definitely not a racist family." And I mean, if you look at what they've done, I'm not into the royal family in any way. And I find it odd that the Irish people seem to be madly into the whole royal family thing now. But I think anything that I've seen them doing down through the years has always been about equality, has always been about multiracial, has always been about, multi-ethnic, and they've been very supportive all around. So, I mean, I just find it odd that has become, people are getting offended on behalf of other people. Yeah. This is the thing. We've talked about. Other people are getting offended on behalf of other people. Exactly. So just to answer that question, it's you do kind of worry about maybe a so-called gaffe every so often, and And I suppose the question for people like me and you even is that, do you feel cowed by it? Does that stop you from going to places that you might even normally go, yeah, I'd love to talk about that, and you go, do you know what? It's not worth my while.
Yeah, I think that's the key to it. I think what happens is you're saying it's not worth the hassle. I mean, I know even at our meetings sometimes where we're talking about gift grub, you say, oh, you could do this, you could take them there, you could do that with it, and you say, no, if we do that, the people are going to complain about it. And I mean, I think it will kind of curtail the art of conversation, the art of comedy. You know, it's going to affect it. But
it will,
as I said as well, it's also not going anywhere. So it's only going to get stronger as well.
Although and as we've also discussed, there may be a pendulum reaction to it in the opposite direction over the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
I think sometimes when they say, okay, this is a new rule, you can't say this anymore, I think it would be good if some people in strong positions stood up and said, no, I don't agree with that, and I'm not going with that. So, you know, I think everybody
Ian,
is going along.
I used to say this on the Sunday roast. Yeah. I used to say, you know, some guy in Waitrose was going to be kicked out because he said something about somebody, or he was perceived to have said something. Yeah. And I was saying at the time, who's going to be the first major corporation to go, fuck off? No, our employee stays, and we're not bending.
Stand up by him. We know him. We know him better than you know him. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. Few odds and ends maybe to pick up with you here. You've never had a massage.
I have never had no, I haven't. No.
And you can't bear the thought of getting a massage.
No, I don't
wouldn't
like
let somebody near you.
No. There's two reasons. One of them is I don't really like. I think that it might hurt a little bit too much. And that's probably the point of it, you might say. And the other thing is, I would be afraid that it might go. I might get a slightly kind of aroused by the whole thing, and I might even if it was a bloke, I might get aroused without realizing it. You know, so I'd be a bit worried about that.
Okay, so you've been cancelled twice there, Ian.
Excellent.
For saying various different things. So good, Ian Dempsey. I could see the game show now. Ian Dempsey, you've won a massage. Oh, fantastic! Sorry, you've turned down the massage on the basis that you will get aroused. Okay, but that's honest. That's honest and in fairness, I know that's honest for anybody who's listening out there, because he has said that to me in private. Nice. And you have asked me about my frequent massages, because when they're open, I get a massage every week. And you've quizzed me.
Yeah, I know you love them. Yeah.
I do. You've quizzed me before on massages, as if and then what happens then? And nothing happens then. So a few more. I suppose I'll clear this one up with you as well. I mean, everybody who knows you knows your association with Bowie, but just try and be brief. Why Bowie?
Well, it was probably a matter of timing. It was I didn't get into the Beatles. I didn't get into any of that. I do appreciate them now, but when I was about 1971, I was probably about 10 or 11, and I saw this guy, and I saw him as theatrical. I saw him as colourful, saw him like a cartoon, and he also was saying something to me like, "Yeah, you can dream, you can do your own thing," and it was all contained within one guy. It wasn't four guys; it was one guy, and I was just fascinated by him, and have been ever since. And I mean, I think my parents would be more worried about the fact that I was a Bowie fan than the fact that I wasn't listening in school properly. You know what I mean? That they were more kind of, oh, that's a strange one now, you know. Whereas,
just to separate it, is it him or the music?
Oh, I think it's him, definitely. I mean, I love the music.
Okay.
I love the music, and but I think it's him. I think it's I love that famous Jeremy Paxman interview where he basically foresaw the internet and followed it through in his head. I think he had great vision and great ideas, and his music was pretty good as well. You know, although he's had a few dodgy ones, and I didn't think his videos were that good, to be honest with you. I mean, I think he was ahead of his time with a lot of these things, and he had great ideas before they had the right technology to actually make those ideas look good. So he tried all these experiments, and it looks a bit shit now when you look back on it. Some of the things he did.
So actually, part of your admiration for David Bowie is you see him as a kind of a bit of a genius superhero kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And, so I didn't know that, because I was going, okay, listen, I get it, right? Space Oddity is fucking brilliant. I get it. Station to Station is fantastic. Hunky Dory is amazing. But how can you like it just over and over again that much? And then you've answered me the question. Yeah, it's not so much it's the music, it's actually him you really
It's him,
dig.
Yeah. But I do love the music as well. But that's what grabbed me. And I mean, I know it's a real cliche, and people say that Top of the Pops thing where himself and Mick Ronson looked into the camera and Bowie pointed at, Starman. It was like, that's just such an iconic piece of history. And the fact that people, like men, didn't get that close to each other before.
Yeah.
And now they do. And now they're hugging and doing all kinds of things, So that's it.
Yeah, and of course, you're a non-drug taking, masculine, straight down the line bloke who idolizes this androgynous heroin addict, half female, half man.
There you go. There's always hope, you see. Exactly. There's always hope.
Exactly. Yeah. Final thing, Ian. I've been working with you for 22 years now. We started up Gift Grub on the radio, and then we went for Gift Grub Live on 2009, and we started in a little room, the Sugar Club. And that was a great night. I remember it was a great night because I remember Matt Cooper, of all people, just came up to me and in a very quiet way looked around and went, "Jesus, there's legs in that yolk." And I remember knowing then that there was something in it, and it's been a wonderful 12 years, and in fact it's about a year to the day now since we were last on stage. But as you know, so I do all these.
Wow, really?
It's about a year to the day now since we came back from Galway and we were on the stage in Leisureland, and I remember the last time we played Galway, it was a full house, but we were actually doing mass gathering jokes. So I'd come out as Joe Duffy and I go, "Woo, mass gatherings," and everybody was going, "Oh, Jesus, what is he saying?" Yeah, all that sort of stuff. So people were already getting a bit shifty about the whole mass gatherings thing.
Yeah,
we felt a little bit elite. We felt almost
they're used to it now. Used to it.
Yeah. So you have to do a little task for me, Ian, before we sign off. Normally, you have an excellent voice, right? I mean, you have an amazing voice, chocolatey voice, really great voice. It's as if your voice is married to the microphone. Really, it's like as if there's a microphone, there's a voice, and then the microphone and the voice create an extra special chemistry. That's what happens with your voice. It's a really great voice. It's a good voice in normal life as well, but it's just that on a microphone it really takes off. But normally with somebody with a voice as good as yours, nearly always, they're reasonably musical, and they have a good sense of pitch, and they're often really good at impressions. But you're not really. Do you? Would you? Can you do impressions of anybody?
No, you're not. Are you going to teach me one? I'd love to do.
Well, I might teach you one, but you're going to have to try and just give me. You're going to have to try and teach me. You're going to have to try and give me your best effort at a few names, even from having heard me do them throughout the years. Okay. So, all right. So give me your best version, and you have to. This will be quick now. So give us your best version. Ian Dempsey does impressions of Joan Burton.
Can I just say? Is that good? No.
yeah, that's not bad. Okay, go for it. Paschal Donohoe.
I love a bit of basement jacks myself, to be honest with you.
Robbie Keane.
Oh, Jesus, what's going on there, Mario?
Okay, James Corden.
Oh, no, sorry, I can't even tell you. He's got some sort of...
I know.
Can you do him?
Well, no, I can't, but I know you hate James Corden, so I was wondering if you'd be able to stomach it. Okay, Matt Cooper has a problem in a battery shop.
Hello? You wouldn't have any AAA batteries by any chance, would you?
Christy Moore says realizes there's no toilet paper in the cubicle.
Oh, here we go again. What'll they do? Use the enemy shirt. Use the enemy...
Michael Flatley wants you to play a request for him on the radio.
Be Jesus, will you play it for us for the baby? Go on, play it for the baby.
For the baby, yeah.
For the baby.
Porrick Harrington is having a party and is in a great mood.
I got do. Oh, that's Joan Burton, sorry. I got do.
Very good. That's not bad at all. See, you have a musical ear. You have a musical ear. I've shot my load, Ian. I've completely shot my load with you now. And
okay.
So all I want to say is thank you so much for being my first guest. And and hopefully we can go on from here.
It's been a fantastic pleasure, and thank you for all the years. I have listened to some of these podcasts going on, and what normally happens when there's an interview going on is that the interviewer, as in you in this case, says something like, "It's been my pleasure having you," and they leave a little gap then, and they're expecting the interviewee to come back. Well, can I just say, you've been a great inspiration to me down through the years yourself, and I always enjoy your stuff on the radio. And so I've often said it. I've said it publicly before. I think what you do on the radio, what you've done on TV and on stage, is absolutely world class. So fair play to you, and it's brilliant. And I'm delighted to be your first guest on your podcast.
Oh, more than happy, Ian, to have you. And I'll see you on Monday. Okay,
and can I do my real voice now? I'll get the radio voice off now. Do you want me to?
Yeah. We're off now. We're not on yet.
Thanks a million for that there, Mario. And I'll see you back in the bleeding... is that the bleeding south side again? Yeah, I'll see you then.
Yeah, when are you going to allow me to do Dennis O'Brien impression?
Go on now.
And my thanks again to Ian Dempsey for being my first ever guest on the Mario Rosenstock podcast. I hadn't actually listened to that until today. And fond memories there. And of course, I was one of Ian's first guests on his podcast as well, which is called Dempsey's Dozen, which you can catch on all your platforms as well. My big thanks to On Ice, our sponsor. That is onice.ie. Get up, get out and about. Enjoy the magic, the festive magic of ice skating this Christmas. In Dundrum, Swords, Marion Market, Cork, Limerick and Galway. Pretty much nationwide, or near to wherever you are. On Ice, and get on a line that's onice.ie. And thanks to On Ice for getting involved in the podcast, and thanks to you for listening to this podcast, and thanks to you for telling one other person. MarioRosenstock@gmail.com if you want to get in touch with me about any aspect of the podcast. See you same time, same place next week. Now, before we kick off this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast, I wanted to bring you this short advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. As you'll know from listening to this series of podcasts, I've always been interested in the whole subject of therapy, and I think that it's something that so many of us, if not all of us, could really benefit from. It's no exaggeration to say that life can get crazy at times, and it can be hard to cope. We're all just trying to do our best. And sometimes we can use a little bit of help with that. Therapy isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma in their lives. It's for anyone who would like to learn things about positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, tackling negative self-talk, and that kind of stuff. With over 5,000 therapists in Ireland and the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Mario. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mario. Now, before we kick off this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast, I wanted to bring you this short advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. As you'll know from listening to this series, I've always been interested in the whole subject of therapy, and I think that it's something that so many of us, if not all of us, could really benefit from. It's no exaggeration to say that life can get crazy at times, and it can be hard to cope. We're all just trying to do our best. And sometimes we can use a little help with that. Therapy isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma in their lives. It's for anyone who would like to learn things like positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, tackling negative self-talk, that kind of stuff. With over 5,000 therapists in Ireland and the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Mario. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mario. Thanks. Now, before we kick off this episode of the Mario Rosenstock podcast, I wanted to bring you this short advertisement from BetterHelp Therapy Online. As you'll know from listening to this series, I've always been interested in the whole subject of therapy, and I think that it's something that so many of us, if not all of us, could really benefit from. It's no exaggeration to say that life can get a bit crazy at times, and it can be hard to cope. We're all just trying to do our best. And sometimes we can use a little bit of help with that. Therapy isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma in their lives. No, it's for anyone who would like to learn things like positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, tackling negative self-talk, and that kind of stuff. With over 5,000 therapists in Ireland and the UK already, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. So, let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. You'll get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Mario. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Mario.